What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a little different video for you. We're going to do kind of a story time slash taxidermy tour here at the house. So a couple months back I went to pick up my elk and my antelope at the taxidermist down in Ingram, Texas. Now the taxidermist I have used in the past for both my moose, my elk, and my antelope is Woodbury Taxidermy. They do an absolute amazing job. And I will tell you, it was quite the ordeal going to pick up this elk. It was 5 hours one way from my house just to go get it. I had to hook up to a U-Haul trailer, had to drive back, had to get my cousin to come help me carry the elk in the house. It was an absolute mess trying to figure out where this elk would go because he was way bigger than I even remember. And it was quite the ordeal. I filmed the whole thing and somehow lost my SD card. So I was gonna share that trip with you guys, lost the SD card, and so I had the idea, why don't I just do a taxidermy tour? I'll show you all the taxidermy that I have here in the house, kind of give you the story behind the animal, where I killed it, when I killed it, all that good stuff. And I guess since we're right here, we'll start with these two guys behind me. So I killed these two impala in 2004. It was my senior year of high school. It was my senior trip. Me and my dad went over there. We went with Ken Moody Safaris in South Africa. And on that trip, I was able to take a zebra. I was able to take these two impala and then also a jackal. And it was a great trip. It was a good first trip to Africa. I will be honest, there weren't the animals there like there were the second trip I went to Africa, but it was still, all in all, it was a great trip. These were my first African animals, and they hang here in the office at the house, and I shot both of them with a Matthews MQ32, I believe, or an MQ1, something like that. I was shooting Muzzy broadheads, Carbon Express arrows. That was back when I was 17, 18 years old, and had an absolute blast on that trip. All right, we're gonna venture into the living room, and we'll start with this bad boy. So this is my moose that I killed in 2015 with Sickany River Outfitters up in British Columbia. And this thing is an absolute beast. This was my first Western big game animal with a bow. So something kind of funny about this moose is when I booked this trip, 2 weeks after I had put my deposit down on this moose hunt, we found out that we were having the twins. So my deposit was down, we were going. And when I went on this hunt, I think the twins were like 9 months old. So they were still little bitty. Luckily, my wife is amazing, and she let me go. I don't really know why, but she did. So the story on this moose is pretty wild. We basically got wind blown in the first day of my hunt, and so we couldn't fly into camp. Gage wants to be in the video. The next day we got flown into camp, so I lost 1 day of hunting. Well, the very first day we were gonna ride horses to this lake to go check it out, see if there were any moose down there. The horses, even though they were hobbled, they had basically wandered off in the middle of the night, and so it was gonna take, you know, a couple hours to gather the horses. So instead of waiting to gather the horses, all that good stuff, me and my guide decided to just put our packs on and start hiking. There was another lake that was about 3.5 miles away that we could hike to. We could hunt that day, then we could take the horses to the other lake the next day. So we hiked in, we get to this lake, our very first calling set, we have a bull coming, and it's the first moose I've ever seen in my life. It blew my mind because where this bull was coming from was literally up on the top of the mountain where I was thinking you would look for like a mountain goat. And he was up in this little ditch, this little saddle up in the top of the mountain. He starts coming down, and he got to about 700 yards or so, and he ended up turning and not coming in. But by the time he had gotten to about 700 yards, we could tell that he wasn't a legal bull. So where we were hunting, a legal bull either had to have 10 points on one side or 3 eye guards. So we realized this bull isn't legal, but it was still just awesome. The first day of hunting up in British Columbia, having a bull come in, having a bull, you know, working towards the call, it was just so cool. but it started to rain on us, started to sleet on us. We called the rest of the day. It was about an hour before dark, and we had about an hour and a half hike back to camp. And so we decided to go ahead and start hiking back in. And we were coming over this little saddle ridge in some real dark timber. My guide was in front of me. I had my bow in a sling. I had my rain gear on. I had my release in my pocket. We're going over this little saddle, and my guide just like stops and says, "Bull." And I didn't see the bull. I didn't know if he was talking about an elk or a moose. I had both tags. So basically, I just jump in front of my guide and we start running down this trail through this dark timber. You know, as we're running, I'm throwing the bow sling off my bow, throwing it to my guide. We are just hauling butt trying to find this moose or this elk. And at this point, I know it's a moose. We can see the tracks literally right in front of us, so we know we're still on this bull. And we're just running through this dark timber. And it's one of those things that you just can't explain. It was just meant to be. We come out of the dark timber and it kind of drops off into this little meadow, and there he is right there standing in the meadow. As soon as I see him, I already have an arrow knocked. I'm grabbing my rangefinder. It is raining, it is foggy. I pull my rangefinder up, I range him 64 yards. As I click and hear 64 yards, I hear my guide tell me he's legal. So I move my sight to 64. I draw back. As I draw back, he stops perfectly broadside, and I feel the shot break. And I will be 100% honest with you. I had no clue what the antlers on top of that bull's head looked like until we walked up on it. The only thing I remember is when I very first saw the bull, I remember seeing those fronts, but after I saw him and I heard my guide say he was legal, I did not care what those antlers looked like. And it was one of those things, it happened so quick. I mean, I would say, but between the time I saw that bull and the time he had an arrow in him was less than 6 seconds. But after the shot broke, I couldn't see the arrow. My guide told me that he thought that I hit him in the butt or in the back quarter. I guess the way he was angled and the way my arrow was flying, it looked like I had hit the bull in the back quarter. I knew that the shot sounded good. We walked down and we couldn't find my arrow. We didn't find any blood, anything like that, and it was getting dark, so we figured we were probably just coming back. The next morning, we're gonna come back and look, and we kind of just walked 50, 60 yards in the direction that he had ran in this meadow. He had ran right out through the center of the meadow, and the meadow kind of made a half moon shape. And so we walked out into the meadow to where we could just see the other side, where like the other side of the half moon would be, and there's my bull. All I see is antlers and just this giant body on the ground laying there. He is dead, and I freaked out. I'm not gonna lie, I started crying. I had never walked up on an animal that I had worked so hard for, because I practiced more for that hunt than I've ever practiced for anything in my life. I shot thousands and thousands of arrows. And you know, it's funny because we got up to the bull. He had told me I'd hit it in the butt, and I had smoked it. Double lung, complete pass through. We found my arrow the next morning when we came out to pack out the meat. You know, the bull had only ran like maybe 80, 100 yards, and he died right there. So just made a perfect shot. Couldn't have been more perfect. That's a hunt that I will remember for the rest of my life. Not only did I kill such a cool bull, I also met Todd and Wendy, and you know, it was just one of the best times of my life. Okay, so before we move on from the moose, I have to show one more thing here. I don't know if you can see this very good, but if you can see right here, when we were caping out my moose, we noticed that there was some mud right here. And so we got a stick and got the mud out, and apparently someone, the year that I killed my bull, had shot this bull with a rifle. Now, I will be honest, the way that is such a perfect hole, I'm assuming that whoever shot him while he was in velvet, and it was still kind of soft and still kind of, you know, not completely hard yet. I don't know that for a fact, but that is pretty sweet that he has a bullet hole through his antler. So this animal here will probably go down as my most memorable, most meaningful animal that I ever hunt in my entire life. I killed this bull in 2017 in New Mexico, just a couple of months after my mom had passed away, and I absolutely busted my butt to kill this thing. So I hunted the first 3 days on this hunt with a New Mexico resident that I'd met, and we were on elk almost every single day, but we just couldn't close the deal. And on day 3, he decided he wanted to go hunt a different area, and I just couldn't leave elk. We had seen a couple of giant bulls. We saw a bull way bigger than this bull, and you know, we just couldn't leave elk. And so we ended up splitting up, and I hunted the rest of the trip solo. And on day 7, I got in, I in-reached my wife. She basically told me, you know, both kids are sick, that she was sick, just things were not going great at home. And I knew I basically had 1.5 days left to get this thing done. I'm not gonna lie, when I went to bed that night, I said a prayer. I talked to my mom, and I said, hey Mom, both kids are sick, Emily's sick. I have 1.5 days left. If I'm gonna get this done, I'm gonna have to make it happen. And I ended up hiking to an area that I had seen elk glassing, but was a long, long ways off the next morning. And I got up there, I was 4.5 miles from the truck, and this big boy pushed his cows right past me at 38 yards. I made an absolute perfect shot on him right through both lungs. He ran 30, 35 yards. He fell over right in front of me, and I just couldn't believe it. It was one of those things that I had worked so hard. I had worked my tail off for this bull. I was able to get him out in 3 loads deboned. I got every piece of meat out, including the neck meat that you're supposed to take out in New Mexico, and I busted my tail. And I think after all said and done, it was after pack out, it was 9 days and over 95 miles to kill that bull. So to say that I'm proud of that bull is an understatement for sure. You know, not only the fact that my mom had just passed away and I killed such a sweet bull, but just the fact that I worked my tail off. So in here to the bedroom, where this is the only mount that I have in the bedroom, but it is my pronghorn. This goat measures right at about 76 inches or so. I killed it in Colorado, which for a Colorado archery goat, that's a pretty dang good goat. But this goat's another crazy story. I missed 3 goats on my hunt. I had not missed an animal in probably 7 or 8 years. And I had missed 3 goats on this hunt. You know, one of them was just completely my fault. So I was actually supposed to pick my cousin up at his blind at noon, and I had this goat within about 200 yards. So I told him, I said, hey, Brett is going to come get you. He's going to take you to the hotel. You get ready to go to the airport, and I'm going to push this as long as I can. So 2 o'clock was the time where we had to go. We were missing flights if we didn't leave, and the goats had kind of moved off down in this drainage. So I went for it. I grabbed my pack, I grabbed my bow, I took off running. I got as low as I could, and whenever I popped up, I was within about 110 yards of these goats. Well, one thing about a pronghorn is they are curious if you get within that 150 yard range. And this goat didn't know what I was. He kind of kept creeping in, wanting to see what I was, and he got to 89 yards, and I put one right on him. Let it go. Rest is history. That's by far the farthest shot I've ever shot at an antelope or at any animal. But he didn't run 10 yards. I put one more in him just to make sure he didn't run anywhere. We got him cleaned up. I got to the airport. I had blood on my Kafaru pack in line at security that was still damp. So that was a pretty wild story and a heck of a goat to kill with that little time left. So now we move into the hallway. This is my little whitetail wall. These are 3 of the 4 whitetail that I have mounted, and these are the biggest 3 that I've ever killed. This one actually is the last animal I have shot with a rifle, and I shot him when I was 18 years old down in Mexico with my grandpa. I think he scored like right at 140, something like that. This one on this side, this is an 8-point that I actually shot right behind the shop. He missed Pope and Young by less than an inch and has about 2 inches broke off his brow tine. So, you know, that's cool. And then this one here in the middle, this is my only Pope and Young whitetail. I shot this in Childress at my grandpa's place. And I shot this thing with my longbow. I shot this buck at 5 steps with my longbow. I center punched his heart. That still to this day is my only Pope and Young whitetail. It's really funny because I was talking to a buddy the other day. I was kind of complaining how I've only killed 1 Pope and Young deer. And then I started thinking about it. I passed up 3 Pope and Young whitetail in the last 5 years. So maybe I should not keep passing up bucks because I've still only got 1. So if we move into the closet here, this is what I call my European area. This is where all my skull capped and my Euro heads are sitting, just because I have not put them anywhere. Got quite a few decent little bucks in here. My mule deer is right here. That's the buck from Arizona in January. I've got my buck from my dad's 2 years ago. But you know, the wife only allows you to have so many deer heads in the house. So when you hit that number, you just gotta kind of put them in the closet or wherever she tells you. So keep the Euros in here. But that's my taxidermy tour, guys. I have a few more animals mounted. I have a zebra rug that I didn't show you. I have a jackal rug. I have a couple of animals mounted at my shop, but that's here for at the house. Oh, I got one more thing I'll show you. Whoa, that's bright out here. Okay, last part of the video is gonna take place up here. This is kind of depressing, but so you know, I said that you just sometimes just run out of room. So this is all my Africa stuff and a pig that was my first big game animal ever. That pig fell off the wall, broke his nose. I've got a 54.5-inch kudu up here. I've got a Gims buck, a water buck, an impala. I've got a wildebeest somewhere, and then I've got a warthog somewhere. So yeah, I have quite a bit of taxidermy. Guys, I hope y'all like this video. I love looking at taxidermy. I love looking at the animals that other people kill. So I just thought it'd be fun to share with you the animals I have here at the house. You know, some of these animals mean the absolute world to me. They were some of the best times of my entire life. And you know, they made me grow as a person. That antelope hunt, that elk hunt, they truly made me grow as a person, and I would not trade those hunts for anything in this world. So I just wanted to share the taxidermy with you. I am super proud of it. You know, there are some animals that I have that when I was younger, I wish I wouldn't have gotten mounted. I wish I would have set my standards just a little higher on whitetail, you know, stuff like that. But I just wanted to share with you guys some of the taxidermy work that I have. You know, let me know what you think of it. And guys, give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you on the next one, guys.